Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fortress of Comic News, episode 218. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and today I have a very special guest host with me. Everybody, welcome Dan to the show. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How's it going?
It's going good over here. It's nice and warm. Having a good day. A great creative interview today. We'll get to that later. Charlie Stickney is going to be on the show. Co-publisher at Scout Comics. He also has his own book, White Ash. We had a good chat, and I think you guys will all like that. But before we get to that, we have a bunch of news and stuff, and I want to start by introducing Dan. So, Dan, tell the people, who are you? What do you do?
Well, we started off as a podcast. So I'm the co-host of the Next Issue podcast. We've now moved on to YouTube. We still do the podcast, but it kind of just based on our YouTube channel at Next Issue Podcast. So we just pretty much look at everything that's like, comic related, movies, pop culture, anything that comes across. We do a lot of trailers and stuff like that. So just anything that catches our eye, really.
Everybody hopefully recognizes Dan, because I know all of you out there watched our Army of the Dead review.
Yeah.
So you recognize Dan, you better, because that was a fun time we had talking about that.
Yeah, that
that
was
movie.
good.
So what do you say? You want to talk about some news?
Let's. Yeah, I'm excited.
All right.
There's a lot happened this week.
So we'll start in the TV realm. This week, Amazon has released our first look at Soldier Boy, played by Jensen Ackles from Supernatural fame, in the upcoming The Boys Season 3. And it looks like I said it looks to me like a muted Captain America from the MCU. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. It's not supposed to be as flashy as somebody like Homelander, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, did you read the Boys comic series?
So I haven't read The Boys because a lot of the people I talked to, they just felt like the show streamlined the comic a lot better.
Okay.
So I'm kind of waiting maybe to see, just keep watching the show, and then maybe one day I'll go back. A lot of the comics from that time, they can get a little edgy for my taste, so I'm like, I think I'd just rather enjoy the adaptation of it later.
I absolutely love that series, although I did get on it late. There's a few moments in it. It is very edgy, I'll admit that right off the bat. And there's a few story arcs in there. There's one in particular that just like, wipe it out. We didn't need that. Other than that, I think it's a great series, front to back. But I'm with you. And my big feeling about this outfit and how they did it, and I was talking to somebody about it the other day, where the Boys comic is making commentary based on the comic book industry and the world of superhero comics. And the Boys TV show is really making commentary based on the adaptation of these into movies. And that's why this is a muted Captain America from the MCU, as opposed to the version we got in the comic, which was very much a Captain America from the comic. But I'm looking forward to season 3.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I'm a big Supernatural fan, so it's nice to see Jensen Ackles come back to do more genre stuff like this. And I'm also a really big fan of The Boys, so I'm excited to see how he's going to play into. Not having read the comics, I don't have any, I have no inkling of where the story might be going other than based on the stuff I've watched, which season 2 left us with a big revelation, right, at the end. But yeah, so seeing how this character fits in, now that there's been roster changes and stuff with the 7, very excited.
Yeah, and it's something that we talk about in this show all the time. It was a big talking point during the glory days of The Walking Dead, where the Boys TV show is like Earth 2, The Boys. It's not following the comic like beat for beat, and nor should it, because that'd be boring. So I think people who are enjoying this show, like yourself, afterwards, when they go and read the comic, will love it for a different reason, which I'm excited for all of you. So, sticking with TV, Disney Plus has cast the villain for its upcoming She-Hulk series. Jamil, best known for her role in The Good Place, will be playing Titania in the Disney Plus series. Are you familiar with Jamil at all?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of The Good Place, so it was nice to see
Yeah.
that she's doing something else, something with Disney. I am not very familiar with Titania as a character in the comics. Uh, the She-Hulk runs that I've read focus more on her doing lawyer stuff as opposed to superhero stuff. Um, like which I find very interesting. So I hope the show leans into that more, or at least finds a good balance between that. But yeah, this looks great. I mean, she was also always a big personality in The Good Place.
Yeah, I'm a huge Good Place fan, so I'm really happy you just said that. I have next to no experience with She-Hulk. I have tried a few times, and it just seems like a character that's not for me. And like any good character, it's going to take the right creator to make it a character for me. But I don't really know these characters that well either, outside of the cursory of who they are and what they look like. But I love Jamil, and I love her character in The Good Place. So I'm just happy to see her in something else that I'm probably going to love. So,
Oh yeah,
that's going to be awesome. And this week also, Kevin Smith took to Twitter and has given us our first trailer for his upcoming Netflix original series, Masters of the Universe Revelations. And boy, howdy, was it 80s. Are you a He-Man fan or Masters Universe fan?
So it's funny. I mean, I'm glad we're talking about this because earlier when we did our live show, we did a big recap of the whole Netflix Geek Week, kind of like a digital convention that they just did to showcase everything. And this was one of the things I was looking forward to talking to them about the most, because even though I don't think I've watched everything He-Man, growing up, like I'm in the age range that this was like everywhere. The He-Man toys were everywhere. A Skeletor, like he was scary at the time, but like overall, like he's one of the villains that you kind of just remember. Battle Cat, like all those things, they just kind of stick to your memory. I'm also a big fan of Kevin Smith. Not so much his movies, just like him as a content creator, like podcaster and all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there are certain projects that just really fit with his style, and this looks to be one of them.
Yeah, I'm not a He-Man fan at all. And that's not a comment that like I hate He-Man. I tried to watch those little cartoons and I couldn't do it. And outside of that, like I think you might have me by a few years because I was outside of that range where I didn't see him everywhere. So He-Man didn't enter my life until I was an adult.
Okay.
But I love Kevin Smith. Everything you said, and I am a fan of his movies. But then the cast we have here, as soon as Mark Hamill spoke as Skeletor, yes. I was in.
Yes.
But I will at least try this out. I think the animation's really cool. I love the trailer as a whole. I said it's the most 80s things I've seen in a while.
Sure.
As soon as that song hit, I was just pumped. Like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
I have the power.
Yeah, this is one of the things I did a trailer reaction for the trailer as soon as it came out, and I was like, oh my god, this is so like. First, I thought my video was going to get taken down for copyright because of the song. Luckily, it didn't because it was one of our better videos. But yeah, just looking at the cast, all the characters, like I don't know. I have yet to see like any kind of place where they might falter. Like I'm not saying this is perfect, but everything they've shown us so far has been so polished. Like it's really good. The animation looks similar enough to the 80s where it's familiar, but it looks updated enough where you won't be like, oh, that looks like an old cartoon. I don't want to watch that.
It's something I hear in video game space all the time. It looks like what you think He-Man looks like from your images of the past. Mm-hmm. And that's like a good HD remake or a good remake of a video game. It isn't faithful to the original game. It's what you remember the original game being. And I think that's what it does really well is when I see it, I'm just like, that does look like He-Man.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get the same vibes from it I got when we were pre-Invincible cartoon, when we were getting all the stuff coming out about it and we were hearing. So if it goes down that path, I'm happy because I love the Invincible cartoon.
Yeah, same thing. Like first time I saw that Invincible trailer, I was like, oh, this is the comic. Like this is writing out these stuff come to life. Like it looks kind of like that. So very similar vibes. Everyone on the cast, and I can't tell you all the side characters because I was a kid when I was watching this, and I've never revisited because of that same thing you mentioned. That I mean, it's a lot. There's only 2 seasons, but it's 70 episodes each one. Because back then they didn't do real seasons for cartoons and stuff like that, right? They're just like, yeah, we're gonna give you everything. So this looks cool. They're gonna give us a thing like 6 episodes for part 1 of season 1. So yeah, Netflix has been playing it pretty smart with the release of their stuff, where they give you a little bit at a time, so you can binge a little, but also wait a little bit.
Yeah, and Netflix has been doing some cool stuff. We talked about it a little bit last week, but I finished Sweet Tooth this week, and I really think that show is special.
Yeah. I'm also parsing that out, but I'm 2 episodes in, and I'm in love with the show.
Yeah, I finished it, and I'm not ashamed to say I cried at the end. It was really something special. And I think that everybody out there needs to go check it out
it's a Jeff Lemire comic, right? Oh, based on a Jeff Lemire comic, so
yeah,
you're definitely gonna get a little sad over it, and there's gonna be emotion involved.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I was talking to somebody who's not a comics fan, a friend of mine in the real world, and he watched it too, and he's just like, man, it was so good. And it's like, this is based on a comic? And I said, yeah. And when you really, it goes on its own tangent and does its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so when you really look at it, it covers 4 issues. Like, that's it. And then everything else that has happened in that series is like, we still can do all this. So that show has some legs too. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of shows that came out, did you watch the first episode of Loki?
Yes. And this is another show that I really enjoyed the whole, what was it, like almost an hour?
Yeah.
A little bit less than an hour. Like every minute of it, I was like, oh, I'm here for this.
I really liked it. I thought it was understandably so a big exposition dump.
Mm-hmm.
But where it ends up at the end just got me excited. Like the twist at the end, I was like, yes, let's do this. Especially since I think that, quick spoilers, everybody. Fast forward a minute if you don't want to hear this. I think that the person at the end is female Loki from the comics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, either that or there's so many versions of them that I feel like we may get more than just 1 or 2. I feel like it would be nice to see more of them. I would love to see all of them, really. Kind of like a League of Lokis or something like that.
I hope you're right, because if Kid Loki shows up, I'm going to freak.
Yes. Because like the most evil Loki is kind of like the one we got from Jason Aaron recently, that King Loki that's old and at the end of time, which I'd be like, he could be the really, really like the real big bad behind all this, and then all the other Lokis kind of have to team up too. But we'll see where they go. I never know with the MCU which parts of the comics they're going to pick, which is nice because that way I don't have to worry about knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like with WandaVision. Like, I always felt that people were wrong in what they were predicting. The whole Mephisto confirmed joke that goes around now.
Yeah.
But I always had the feeling that show was all about despair and losing somebody and dealing with the pain of losing somebody. But the actual like plot line of how that show happened, I had no clue the whole time. And I loved it. I was like, yes, what's going to happen next week? And I think it's ingenious to do the week to week. I love the week to week.
I'm a big fan. Ever since HBO's Watchmen, I've been a big fan of actually going back and just watching stuff week to week. That's the show. Because once Game of Thrones was over, you could just pretty much binge anything, right? That was like the last big show that was keeping you, if you stayed on for the last season, I guess. That was the last show that was keeping you doing week to week stuff where you could actually talk to people for like a week and speculate. But after HBO's Watchmen, I kind of got into that routine again. And I'm like, I should wait out other shows. I should stop kind of binging and enjoy what I'm watching.
I like it societally, too. Like, we have a water cooler thing to talk about every week. We all have a show that we're watching. It's awesome. Even friends of mine or people I work with that aren't comics people, like, they're watching Loki.
Yeah, it is nice to be, like, at the office, I never know because they know I'm, like, the comic TV dude.
Mhm.
So like they never I never know who's gonna come to ask me to talk about whatever. So it's interesting to see what kind of shows random people are watching that may not always be like into the genre stuff like this.
But Loki's great. I'm excited for the next episode.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of sitcoms, so like I love all the procedural stuff, like all the little jokes about, like having an office and all the TVA departmental stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, all that. We get somebody from the Pale from the Good Place. He's in the show. Eugene, I forget the name of the actor, Eugene something, but he's in the show. So I was like, oh, just everyone just getting into the MCU.
Yeah, and that show also had so many Easter eggs that I want to go back and watch it again after
Oh, yeah.
watching a video about the Easter eggs. So let's jump over to movies. Warner Brothers released its first they call it a trailer, it's a teaser for League of Superpets that gave us a quick glance at the animation style, at least of Crypto, and more of the cast. So now we know that Kevin Hart will be playing Ace the Bat Hound, and also joining the cast, I apologize for the names I'm about to butcher, Kate McKinnon, John
Krasinski?
Yeah, Jim from The Office,
Yep.
Vanessa Bayer, Natasha Leon, Diego Luna, and Keanu Reeves in
What?
undisclosed roles.
Ah.
So first off, Kevin Hart's in this. I was already in. Now I'm twice as in.
Yeah. Yeah. I love seeing that The Rock is in everything. Keanu Reeves is in everything. Like, those dudes, man, they work so hard. But yeah, so I'm very excited about this.
I am. I love the Super Pets.
Just the John Williams score just sold it. Like immediately, like you see Crypto and the cake comes out, and then John Williams music hits, and you're like, anything after this is just gravy. But then they give you all those names. I think Kevin Hart is Ace. It's going to be an interesting way to see how they write Ace because he's Batman's dog, but I don't know that Kevin Hart reflects what we think of as Batman's personality.
Yeah.
So
I think they're going to make Ace more of like a... I don't think they're going to do the like strong, big Ace the Bat Hound. They're probably going to like shrink him. Like it'd be funny if he was like a mini poodle or something.
not the Batman Beyond Ace, but something a little bit different. And then who knows what other pets they're gonna pick just based on these characters, like based on the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep punching for this. If Plastic Man's parrot is not in this, I'm gonna be very mad. Outside of that, I love this cast is awesome. John, he's been fantastic in everything he's done.
Yeah,
and hopefully he joins the MCU soon. And then Keanu, like I've always like enjoyed Keanu. Like I know Kung Fu. He's a fun guy. I fell in love with him at E3 3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, when he was for Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and he's like, "No, I love you," and I was like, "Oh, that dude's enjoying life," and I like that.
Yeah, he's one of those people that even like all the stuff that comes out about him in real life, like it's still always like just him being a nice dude.
Yeah.
So that's good. It feels nice.
And it reminds me of The Rock. Like my vision of The Rock is that he's a guy that's just having fun doing what he's doing. And if you're going to be this super famous, super wealthy dude, just have fun with it. Don't take yourself too seriously. Like that's what I want out of you, and I'm getting that out of those two at least. Moving to the MCU, a recent casting rumor has hit the internet for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The rumor states that Namor will be the main villain for the film, and that Tenoch Huerta.
Yeah, don't worry. Huerta. I'm glad I'm here. He's a Mexican actor. So the kids.
I am a very German, North American individual. I apologize for the names I butcher, but he will be the actor playing the role allegedly. I'm interested in this. I'm very interested in this. What do you think?
I saw some discourse when the rumors started coming out that a lot of people feel like Namor has been coded Asian in the comics. And then that got me. I've never thought about it like that, but then again, I'm not Asian, so I'm not sure. And I started thinking about it. Okay, like if Atlantis was real, where would it be located in the world? And that's kind of the logic I was trying to take. But even then, I don't know. Maybe somewhere in the Mediterranean. I don't even know where Atlantis would be if it was real. But I like I like him as an actor a lot. He's not only in his performances, but he's also very active in the betterment of people in Mexico. So like all
Mhm.
that stuff, I was like, I'm on board because of that, because I think he's a good actor and I have goodwill towards him. Um,
That makes me happier to hear. Like we said with The Rock and Keanu,
yeah,
at least he's a good dude, and that's what I want out of everybody. This I didn't hear the Namor being Asian thing, but when this hit, I immediately thought, because I saw a picture of him, and he's from Latin America,
yeah,
right?
he's from Mexico. Yeah,
He's from Mexico. Okay,
yeah, he's indigenous from Mexico. So
and
he is darker skinned. So it's not something that you would normally associate maybe with the typical Namor you would see.
yeah,
Um,
and I was thinking about it, and it's not as I'm a big Namor fan. I love Namor. Namor, especially in the Golden Bronze Age,
mhm.
was drawn to be more of a white dude, but he still didn't have characteristics that screamed white dude.
Yeah,
And even today, he doesn't have those characteristics. And I thought about it. I'm like, I don't even think I would put a nationality to Namor
right.
in terms of how I see him in the comics. So when I saw this and the image I chose for our show notes, I looked at that and I put the pointy ears on. I'm like, that dude's Namor. That's going to be
Yeah, yeah.
just the look. He's going to be great casting. And I'm excited because Namor is such an awesome character.
Oh, I'm super excited about the story that they could tell with this. I don't know if everyone was a. I'm a big fan of the Avengers versus X-Men event in the comics,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads to a lot of like Namor did some messed up stuff to Wakanda in that comic. I'm not a fan of that, but I'm just overall the event. I thought it was very interesting. So there's a lot of bad blood there between the people of Wakanda and probably Namor. So we've already got the little, I don't know if you want to call it Easter egg or whatever in Endgame where there was an earthquake under the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Like we handle it by not handling it, right? So yeah, they've definitely set up the seed. So if this is the way they're going, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, the biggest crime to us as people for this is that we don't get Chadwick Boseman
Right.
playing opposite of him. And
Yeah.
the biggest crime is that we don't have Chadwick Boseman on this earth because he's a fantastic human being as well. But in terms of the entertainment, that we don't have those two fighting on screen
Right.
is terrible. But give me Namor. Do it.
For sure. Yeah, same here.
So, Dan, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to jump over to my interview with Charlie Stickney, and we'll see everybody on the other side. All right, we're back. Awesome. Everybody go check out everything Scout's doing, specifically White Ash. The dudes over there are really great. They're doing some cool stuff, and they seem like good guys, so go check him out. What do you say? You want to talk about some comic news?
I thought you would never ask because I'm here for the comics is the as much as I love all the other stuff, comics is my number one thing. As you can maybe, I mean, but if you see my setup, there's a lot of comics everywhere. So
For the video people, they know what you're talking about.
yeah, exactly. Yes,
Yes.
check out the video version. You can see the setup.
So we'll start. Recently announced, we talked about this last week, but recently announced death of Doctor Strange now has a creative team and some more series info. First off, this comic will be a 5-issue miniseries that will show the end of Stephen Strange's life. And the creators tasked with that mission are none other than Jed MacKay and artist Lee Garbett. Are you going to check this one out?
I'm a big sucker for the Marvel events.
Mm-hmm.
Even the ones I don't enjoy as much, I usually try to pick them up to kind of stay in I guess to not miss out on an event. So yeah, I'll definitely be picking this up.
I am also a huge sucker for an event comic. I think they're what's great about comics, and to everybody out there that's sick of event comics, I'm the reason they keep coming out because I buy all of them.
Same.
This one, I was reading the press release for it very thoroughly, and I even put it in here. They specifically say show the end of Stephen Strange's life. I wonder if this is the end comic and not an actual he's dead in current continuity comic.
We did get a the end comic a little bit. What was it? A few months ago, maybe last year. Sometime when
Yeah,
comics came back by oh geez, was it Leo Williams that wrote it? I think.
there was a bunch of them. There's a bunch
Yeah.
of one shots.
I mean, listen, I so the first thing I like Magic is one of my favorite characters. So Shiva became the Sorcerer Supreme for some reason, and that reason maybe being that Doctor Strange has died. I'm not gonna be mad. But I can see how the Doctor Strange fans would not like that. But
I just wonder with all that, because we got Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, coming out next March.
mhm.
So the timing's a little weird. Because usually a death, if anyone's new to comics, there's a formula to death in comics. They die, someone replaces them, 2 years later they come back.
Yep.
So I think that would be a bold move, Cotton, if you're going to get rid of Doctor Strange right before the movie. But I respect that move. And I personally become a fan of Jed McKay's stuff, so I'll definitely check this out just to see what the hell this is.
Well, I mean, speaking of death, like when Charles Soule killed Daredevil, maybe last year or the year before that, Jed McKay was the one that wrote that miniseries to bring him back.
Yeah.
Before Zdarsky took over. So I'm a fan of McKay's writing when it comes to that. So I think now it's his turn to kill someone as opposed to bring them back to life.
Yeah, I think Jed's a guy that's slowly going up the ranks in Marvel, and I'm excited for his future.
Yeah, when was the last time Black Cat got a series that went over, I don't know, 5 issues? And Jed McKay's still writing Black Cat as well. I think that's of today.
When's the last time Black Cat was the center of a mini event?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So he's doing something right.
So prior to all the COVID shutdowns, everybody last year, we had talked about a Marvel book called Darkhold, who I believe was being written by Steve Orlando. It was supposed to come out just in time for WandaVision.
Oh yeah.
Well, it didn't come out, so now we know that Marvel has announced that the miniseries is back on the schedule, and the first issue will be hitting shelves this coming September. I personally, at the time, was really excited for this book. It was Wanda and Doctor Doom, and it involved the Darkhold. And I thought that we were never going to get it because it literally was announced to come out right as COVID shutdowns hit.
Yep.
And then life happened. So, is this something you're interested in?
Oh yeah, I'm a big Steve Orlando fan, and recently have become thanks to Christopher Cantwell, I've become a big Doctor Doom fan. Because his series or his Doctor Doom series was amazing. So yeah, this looks, I don't know, like I'm looking at the promo art and it just super rad. Like give me a series about the Darkhold and these two maybe fighting over it or working together against it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I just like the Darkhold as a plot device inside of Marvel. And then I love, you said with Christopher Cantwell's Doctor Doom, I love that they really leaned on Doom's magical abilities in that.
Yep.
I think too many people lean on him like the emperor who wants to rule the world.
Yeah.
And they forget that he's a very accomplished magician, however you want to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that kind of separates him from Reed Richards, right? Because they're both Reed's probably smarter than him, but Doctor Doom's got the magic and an empire behind whether it's willing or not. It depends on who's writing it, but yeah, Doctor Doom is he's one of my favorite Marvel. I was gonna say villain, but I'm just gonna say character now because he's not always a villain. As of recently, he's not been as villainous as normal.
Are you currently reading the Guardians of the Galaxy comic?
I am not. I'm behind on that one, but I do want to read it because I think Al Ewing just finished his stuff.
Well, they kind of relaunched it. Not really. Yeah. It's still in the same numbering, but Al Ewing's behind it. And it's the new team, and Doctor Doom is involved. And what happens with Doom in the last issue just made me smile.
You just moved this to the top. Like, my queue just changed to have Guardians a lot higher. My reading
I want you. This is personal time, chat. When you read that and you get to that last page, I want you to just message me your reaction because
Okay.
I freaked out. I was like, "This is amazing! I
Mhm.
need the next issue."
All right, sounds good.
So let's switch over to DC. DC Comics has a new Aquaman and is coming this fall with his own series. Jackson Hyde, the Aqualad from Teen Titans and Young Justice, respectively, will have his own 6-issue series titled Aquaman The Becoming from writer Brandon Thompson and artist Diego. Help me with that name.
Olortegui, maybe?
Olotegi.
Yeah.
And then Wade Von Graubager and Andriano Luca coming this fall. So, quick behind the scenes, Dan. Mike normally reads the news so that I don't have to read these names.
That's okay. Got it.
That aside, I'm like one of the 2 giant Aquaman fans out there.
Yeah.
So I've been sad that I don't have an Aquaman book. I like Aquaman. Jackson, I've been hit or miss with, but I'll check this out. I liked him in the most recent Aquaman series and how he kind of came up and really proved himself to Arthur. So hopefully it builds off of that. And yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not very well versed in Aquaman. I will admit it's one of my blind spots. I thought the stuff that Scott Snyder did with that crossover of Drowned Earth was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then ultimately kind of turned out to be just a setup for Kelly Sue DeConnick to take over with a kind of a blank slate. And then normally Aqualad I picture Calder from the Young Justice. That's probably the most exposure I've had to Aqualad.
Mm-hmm.
Now the name Jackson Hyde didn't click in my head. But looking at the promo art, it definitely looks a lot like the guy from Young Justice. So
yeah, his Teen Titans appearance was in a recent Teen Titans when Damian was running the team.
Okay, so from the comics, the Young Justice comic, not the.
And
cartoon.
Young Justice is a blank spot for me. I have not watched that series, so I don't know if it's him from the comic or the cartoon. But
yeah, but it looks cool. Like I love the Aquaman logo. Like they really, really improved. Like whatever update they did, whoever designed it looks super cool.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the books we read this week later. But I have not gotten around to DC Pride yet, and apparently this does spin out of what he did in DC Pride as well.
I have it sitting right here next to me because I've been trying to get to it all week.
I saw he was in it, and I saw that Alan Scott's in it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna check it out for those 2. Plus, it goes to a good cause. So
yeah, for sure.
Sticking with DC, yet another DC title has been officially announced from the infamous DC lineup leak a few months back. This one is Deathstroke Inc. and is coming from Joshua Williams and artist Howard Porter. Those 2 are the ones that worked on Flash together for a little while. In this series, we'll see Deathstroke joining forces with Trust to try to take down some of DC's heavy-hitting villains. I'm going to say this is a pass on me.
Yeah, I like Deathstroke, but only like in short bursts. I'm not like the biggest Deathstroke fan. I think James Robinson was doing some interesting stuff with his series. And I like the team of Joshua Williams and Howard Porter, but I never they wrote so much Flash. I never finished the Flash run. Like it really got, I don't know. It's at some point it became a lot to keep up with. Like the after the Rogues War, I was like, okay, now the Flash is gonna have a war with all the other Flashes, and so I was like, I'm just gonna wait till some of this is collected or like on DC Infinite where I can more easily access it.
Yeah, I've never been a big Flash fan, so I usually end up skipping his solo comic. Joshua Williams is a guy who I've heard a few interviews with him recently, and he seems to be taking a bigger role inside of DC.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in what they're doing story-wise as a universe. So that said, it's interesting to me that he's taking that role, and so far he's writing Robin and Deathstroke Inc.
Yeah, I mean, I like his Robin book a lot. I like the premise for that.
I do too.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like he's been on the, and maybe this is just for us, but like you said, I'm not Flash isn't at the forefront of what I'm reading. So if he's been in charge of setting up all the Flash stuff with Speed Force, I like it more when Wally's involved than Barry, which is weird because in live action I gravitate more towards Barry, but that's neither here nor there. Like whenever Wally showed up in the Flash comics, I wanted to go read it. Like after Heroes in Crisis, a lot of stuff happened, and then he had his Flash Forward series, and then he was a big part of the death metal event. So I've been following Wally. I just haven't been following the other Flash.
Are you reading the most recent Flash series then?
Is he on it? I wasn't sure if he came back after Williamson was in.
So my understanding is that Barry is going over to whatever the Infinite Frontier team is. That's supposed to deal with stuff before it comes to DC Universe. And then Wally is now the Flash and like the Flash book, and then Justice League. Like he's now the mainstay Flash for at least a little while.
Okay.
That's what I've heard. I'm not reading the book, but I was reading the other day because I think the last issue, it was either last issue before that, he goes back in time and fights a superpowered Hitler, which I thought was ridiculous.
Okay.
So I was like, is this real? And I looked it up, and it said Wally West goes back in time. So at least for that story, he was in it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, this is kind of like stuff like this, or me just hanging. Now that I'm able to go a little more freely to the comic shop, like I can actually hang out there for a little bit and talk to people about what they're reading. And this is how I'll find out when Wally's back, because I'm not keeping up with the Flash. So now that you told me, I'm gonna go check out the current Flash one.
So now that we spent the Aquaman news time talking about the Flash, let's move on to DC has announced just in time for Halloween that they are bringing a horror anthology based in the DC universe called Are You Afraid of Darkseid? Not to be confused with Are You Afraid of the Dark? We don't have any creative teams announced. We just have an image and title, but this book is coming, and it's a Halloween-inspired anthology. I don't know about you, but I love these holiday anthologies that DC does. And I'm down for this premise at the very least. So,
yeah. Other than the $10 price, I love those books.
Yes,
I've been picking up every anthology. You get so much, and then the cool thing that is introduces you to creators you probably aren't following, or characters that you aren't following. It's pretty clever. Are You Afraid of the Dark Side? Like, I was a fan of the Are You Afraid of the Dark show growing up, so this looks rad.
Yeah, people may be sick of me saying this, but that is my thing with those anthologies: is you low tier creators get their chance to try something, and you get to find some special creators. You meet new creators that way, and that's some of my favorite parts of reading those.
Well, and if I want to recommend a comic to somebody, I'm more inclined to recommend that because there's no like baggage with it. It's just a bunch of stories. And they're really, now hopefully once we get back to conventions, those are really good to take to conventions because you can get a lot of signatures in one book as opposed to hauling around like, 10,000 books or whatever in your pack.
Yeah. So everybody, Fables is back. It is coming. Co-creator Bill Willingham and Mark Buckingham will reunite for a 12-issue series that picks up after the events of the air quotes, series finale of issue 150. Alongside that, Bill Willingham will also be penning a 6-issue miniseries with artist Brian Levels for DC Black Label called Batman vs. Bigby, a Wolf in Gotham. Have you read Fables, and are you a Fable fan?
I read the first couple of volumes. I think it wasn't for me because I feel like I've read stuff that's been inspired by Fables that's so much better now because so much time has gone by. But I can see the inspiration that came from Fables. I think just people have refined the storytelling so much more. But so I appreciate it as something that inspired a lot of creators that are doing stuff that I like now. But as I just didn't feel that there's so much of it. I was like, I'm not gonna take this journey just to go over something that I kind of like.
Yeah, because it's not even just that there's 150 issues. There's 150 issues, and then there's all these ancillary books that went with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I read like 3 volumes of it. I enjoyed my time with it, but I do believe that now we have stuff that's better than that is.
Yeah.
That said, is the name of the game Fables? That came out from Telltale. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I really like that game. I like that style of game, first of all, and it was just kind of a detective story that told that thing. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So in that way, I'm like a little bit curious about this Batman versus Bigby thing.
Well, for the Batman book, I'm contractually obligated to pick up every Batman book. So I just picked them all up, like no matter what they are. So this is Batman. It's Black Label. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out for sure.
I know the feeling. I'm a little bit luckier. I am contractually obligated to pick up every MODOK book and every Duke book. Luckily and unluckily, because those are the 2 greatest characters ever created. Everybody. Yeah. We don't get a whole lot of them, so my pocketbook is safe.
Well, listen, I think you've had a pretty good year with MODOK.
I have, yeah.
So
that's all the news, everybody. But let's jump into what we read this week. Dan, you want to kick us off? What are you reading?
Yeah, so this week we have a local comic book club, and every year we just kind of throw out things. This month happened to be the thing that I suggested we read. So I went back and I reread Batman Court of Owls Deluxe, which has both volumes of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman Court of Owls from the New 52. And revisiting this material, like 2011, 2012 is when I really got into reading comics and collecting to where I am right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't the first time I read comics, but it was like the first time I set up a pull list and the first time I would go to the shop like almost every week to pick up stuff on Wednesday. So this series means a lot to me because it's my first, it's the first Batman run that I have the whole thing and I was reading it as it was coming out. So revisiting it was really cool. You can definitely tell, like, Greg Capullo at the beginning, he has his own style, and then he's been working at it. Like, by the time of the series, and he's already grown so much as an artist. And for somebody that's been in the industry for that long, I'm just impressed how much he keeps just like outdoing himself.
And the behind the scenes conversations I've heard were like those two did not like each other.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then you like fast forward like a year or two and they're brothers. Like they love each other. So yeah, you could feel that in that series a little bit as well, where like you could tell Greg was kind of pushing and pulling away from what Scott was doing, but then they kind of realized that that I talked about Quarter Hours last week actually because I read Batman the Adventure Continues Season 2.
Okay.
Which is that comic is a continuation of the Batman the Animated Series storylines. And it's Season 2 starts off by introducing Court of Owls into the animated series.
That's
cool. That's my introduction into DC, really. I read some DC before that, but like actually jumping in and being a part of the DC universe, New 52 is where I jumped in as well.
Yeah, the New 52 gets a lot of crap, and I completely get it because they were doing 52 books at once, like in 1 month. But the stuff that's good, like it's really, really good. And the stuff that's bad, like you can tell why it didn't make it past 6 or 12 issues.
Yeah. It doesn't get enough credit for bringing in new people.
Oh yeah,
it really doesn't.
Yeah. And you know, like Greg Capullo was doing crazy things, like making you turn the comic to read it. Like you had to read it upside down. And then the introduction to the Court of Owls, it's my favorite retcon in comics probably. Like just it seamlessly introduced something like I don't know if it was super clever. I just felt it was super clever for me. Like like just changing the mythology without really messing anything up really. Except the Thomas Wayne Jr. thing. I've forgotten about that. Like he has a brother that, yeah, all that stuff is it's a little weird, and I don't think they brought it up since.
It kind of gets forgotten about. But
Yeah,
I, for me, it's how I describe it. Is it's one of those moments where like, how did nobody think of this? It feels so obvious, and that's why it's so genius because nobody else did think of it, and
right.
it gives you that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I also read Heroes Reborn Night-Gwen #1, a one shot with Gwen Stacy as the pretty much Nightwing in the Marvel universe. I'm a little lukewarm about the whole Heroes Reborn thing that's going on, but this title, I would love it to continue. Like if they
Uh,
give me more of this, like yeah, this it was really good. It's probably my favorite thing from Heroes Reborn so far.
so I'll jump in and do our Heroes Reborn corner. I feel like I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't like you, aren't feeling that great about Heroes Reborn. I am loving Heroes Reborn. I love all the keys back and forth of like how do we take the Marvel universe and basically twist it to become the DC universe throughout it. And I read Heroes Reborn #6 and Squadron Savage #1, and both of them, like Heroes Reborn #6 it's a Wonder Woman book.
Yep.
It's Power Girl or not Power Girl,
Power Princess.
Power Princess, and she fights Olgog and all these other creatures, and her base of operations is in the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, that's cool.
It gives us the backstory of like the Paradise Island that she came from, and I really enjoyed because she is terrifying. She's a terrifying human being who just puts Thor on his ass and like basically tells him to like, no, you sit there, like,
yeah,
we don't need you.
yeah. I think my issue with Heroes Reborn, I think it's gonna read a lot better altogether because we get two stories, right? We get the main story that's about one of the members of the Squadron Supreme, and then we get the backstory or the I guess the backstory that actually pushes the main story forward, leading up to Heroes Return or whatever that one shot is at the end. I'm assuming. So I think that's been probably the main thing that I'm like, I don't really want to like. You move the needle a little bit forward, even though the stuff I just read was really cool. Like I don't know, spoiler for #2, like or #1, Hyperion going through Galactus' head. That was cool. Like that was an amazing panel. So there's a lot of cool stuff. I can't see it cohesively like uniting yet, but I think it will because I trust Jason Aaron. He's been doing some really dope stuff with his Avengers and even before that.
I think that back, we always jokingly call it the second feature because that's what DC called it for a little bit.
Okay.
But the second feature this one was Thor, and we realized that throughout time he basically got his ass slapped and was just decided, oh fuck it, I'm not going to do anything anymore, and he's just been drunk for like thousands of years. And literally, like how he like realizes he's Thor again and comes back and realizes something's wrong as he sobers up.
Oh,
but I love the one shot feel of all these issues where like, especially the ancillary books like Squadron Savage, and a few of the other ones where they literally just put like little notes in there like this happened in issue whatever of this series. Oh wait, that's not printed. And it's like, right, that's awesome, but fuck you at the same time. Right. I am very hot on this. I love this series. And I have faith that when we get Heroes Return in about 2 weeks.
I think so. Yeah, I think 7's next week. And then...
Yeah. So I think that once that happens, I have faith that Jason Aaron's going to pull this all together and really show us, the whole story.
Yeah, my plan is to read everything up until that weekend before it comes out. Heroes Return comes out, catch up on everything, and then I'll be primed for Heroes Return.
There you go. Do you have anything else this week?
Yeah, I read Batman the Detective #2 and 3. I read #2 because I was gonna review 3 for my channel, so I had to read it so I could catch up. But this is by Tom Taylor with art by Andy Kubert. If that doesn't sell you in the book, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it's more of a detective story. Batman's in the UK, trying to figure out who this group is that's taking out people that Batman has saved, and they've heard Knight from Knight and Squire, so he's riding around with Squire. I guess the new Squire, because the old Squire became Knight. But yeah, it's just very interesting, and it goes back into some deep lore with Batman meeting some people that has helped them train, like Henry Ducard and people like that show up, and I love all that mythology of how Batman became the Batman that he is right now. Also, Andy Kubert makes Batman look like super beefy, like almost Dark Knight. I mean, he was the artist for Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. So if you read that, he draws him a lot like that when he shows up. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. Tom Taylor's one of the people that I'm also picking up a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, he's awesome. The villain for this, I love the motivation.
Yeah.
I love what they're doing. And I love that they're kind of tapping into Batman Incorporated stuff.
Yes,
I love that series. Yeah, that's a
I
good
want
one.
I want that Matador dude to show up again. Gaucho, I think it was his name. Yeah, like all that Batman Inc. stuff was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it felt like with Batman Inc., the only one they cared about was Batwing. And then everybody else kind of fell to the side.
Yeah.
And I love that at least we're getting Squire back. Like, at least they're back.
Hey, yeah. Batwing's making it to the live action screen. They showed, I guess maybe it wasn't in the news, but they showed a picture of him in the new outfit. On Batwoman.
Yeah, we're Mike and I on this show are so out of the CW verse.
Oh, okay.
That's why. And the people who've been listening along followed my journey, where my headcanon is that the CW verse ended at Crisis.
Okay.
When they get the Hall of Justice and they all sit around the table, I'm like, that's the perfect ending. I'm done.
That's a good spot to exit, for real. Like, I agree. Yeah, once Arrow was done, everything got a little harder. I will say, Superman and Lois is really good. If you haven't checked it out,
that one's tempting me. That one's tempting me.
It's very good. Like, it has no right to be that good on the CW, I think. But anyway, sorry. Back to comics.
I have a couple here. We'll just go with Magic the Gathering number 3. Talking about Jed MacKay. He's building this world back up, and it's awesome as somebody who hasn't been in the Magic the Gathering world in probably like 8 to 10 years. That he's drawing on things that I know and characters I know and lands I know, but reintroducing them in this almost noir detective story with magic. And
okay,
it's so the first issue we started off with like a bunch of different guild masters got attacked at the same time, and then they all realized they got attacked at the same time. So like, who's doing this? And now they're trying to figure out who it is and what their motivation is. And in this one, we get a hint that like they weren't the only ones. That there's other people that are connected to them as well.
Oh.
And I love the world of Magic Gathering. As full disclosure, when I was younger, like I was the guy that read the novels when I was playing the game and everything. So I was always into it and just fell off after a while.
Yeah.
And when this book got announced, I just got really excited to jump back into some Magic. So yeah, I'd recommend this book.
I picked up issue number 1 out of nostalgia because I was never a big Magic player, but I did enjoy pre-pandemic. I enjoyed going to the shop and just every once in a while playing a Commander deck. Because it's the easiest way for somebody that can't. I really don't want to keep up with all the releases, but just Commander's like, you get a pre-built deck and you're good. So yeah, I picked up the first issue, but now that you mentioned it, I think I'm gonna check it out. Especially if Jed MacKay's writing it. Like we just talked about all the stuff that he's doing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So.
And then my X-Men verse, I have X-Men number 21.
Okay.
Which it's Hickman's last issue. Dragata and Dauterman do the art for it. If anyone read East of West, Dragata does the first part of this issue, and he definitely has a style, and you either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
And his interaction that he goes with is between Charles and Magneto and Namor, and them trying to say, like, hey, like, you're a mutant, come on, work with us, do stuff with us. And Namor is Namor and basically tells him to fuck off.
Yeah.
And then after that, Dauterman takes over, and essentially we get a few little cameos throughout the book, and we just get introduced to the next X-Men team, and kind of sets up that the Hellfire Gala is coming in a week or two.
Yeah, I read this as well. I'm reading every X-Men book that's out there. So I was pretty excited for the Hellfire Gala just because I like the X-Men the most, I think, when they're not fighting, when they're just kind of hanging out. I think we need to find a good balance, though, but I think now that we're going to get a new team, although I wanted Boom Boom, I voted for Boom Boom to be on the roster because I like Polaris and X Factor, so I didn't want them to move her.
My theory was, so I was never a big X-Men fan, but I'm a big Hickman fan.
Okay.
So when Hickman took over, I started reading X-Men, and I'm loving what he's doing. I was not familiar with Boom Boom too much, and I started looking him up. And I voted for him just because I wanted this image in my head of Hickman in the office being like, fuck, they picked Boom Boom? What am I going to do? Like, that's what was in my head when I was doing that.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked for this Hellfire Gala. Mostly for what's coming afterwards. Like, this is obviously setting up the next two big story arcs for the X-verse as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, they announced Inferno that we're getting in I think late summer, early fall.
Yes. And I'm a big listener to interviews and other comic stuff around, and I've heard interviews, and I know that's another impetus for X-Men, where when Inferno ends, there's going to be something big, and we're going to start getting more announcements about new stuff. So that's going to be another like trigger event that really moves us forward. On that, I also read Excalibur 21.
Same.
Which I'm really falling in love with Betsy. Like, I've always loved... Excalibur was the first one that, other than X-Men proper, that was like, I'll try that because I like Captain Britain.
Okay.
And throughout this series, I fell in love with Betsy as a character. And I like her little interactions with people. The essential part of this story is that Britain is no longer going to play games with the X-Men.
Yeah.
And is becoming like an anti-mutant state, which is an interesting dynamic on a geopolitical scale of these stories.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's a little like Brexit type of stuff that they just decided, like, we're leaving, and who knows if it's the best thing for the country, but like, it's been decided, so that's what we're going to do. Obviously, this escalates it because it's more like a fantastical thing that what do you mean Britain doesn't want Captain Britain's protection? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I love Rick. Richter's been such an interesting character ever since the Ten of Swords event ended, because I feel like he got the shortest end of every stick that everyone got out there, because he was finally learning how to like really expand his powers in Apocalypse, or whatever his mutant name is. They've never told us how to say it.
It's still Apocalypse up here.
Yeah. So Richter, and then Shatterstar just comes back all covered in blood, and I'm like, what's happening? So I didn't even know they were a thing from before. This book, it's very interesting. I like what Tini Howard's been doing with the team, and I love the original Excalibur, and I like this iteration as well.
Yeah, and while I'm falling in love with Betsy as a character, I'm really falling in love with Tini as a creator.
Oh, yeah.
And I started reading some of her other stuff, and she's just very talented and just can weave a great story.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a stack behind me of more books, everybody, but I've had a busy week, so that's all I got to this week. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, the only other thing I'm going to talk about is a comic that came out this week called Bunny Mask. It's from Aftershock. By Paul Tobin and I don't have the artist.
Andrea Muti.
Yep. It's a horror comic. So if you like horror comics, I definitely recommend this. It has a very Twilight Zone, Outer Limits type of setup. But the art, I think, is what really draws me in, because it's like sketchy, and it's not very like the lines aren't very clean, but it fits with the story that you're telling. and it has a super really like. I just thought it was one of the coolest twists that we've seen at the end, and I'm like, oh, I'm hooked. Aftershock, like they do a lot of weird books that sometimes I just kind of get into. At least for the first few arcs, sometimes I was reading Animosity, and that kind of felt like I kind of fell off of that. But the first few arcs of that were really amazing. So I hope with Bunny Mask, like I can stay on board because I really really enjoyed it.
I want to get to that too this week. Andrea as an artist is one of my favorite storytelling artists.
Yeah.
I believe it's he. He did Horde of Earth with Zach Kaplan, which is one of my favorite sci-fi comics of recent memory. And then he also did a book with Brian Wood called Rebels. And that was like a couple different series, but they're all titled Rebels with something underneath it.
Okay.
And that's all about Revolutionary War America and the Minutemen.
Oh.
And how Andrea goes from Rebels to Port of Earth to this.
Yeah.
And yet I love his art in every single one. Just tells me that he's a great visual storyteller.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to get that book in my hands.
The last thing is just, and this is, you may have already talked about this in your prior episodes, The Nice House on the Lake by James Tynion. I don't know if you read that.
I have not actually.
It's a DC Black Label book. It's a horror story. I'm really getting into horror comics. So this one, man, James Tynion's good at writing superhero stuff, but I feel like he's best when he doesn't have that editorial telling him like, well, Batman needs to be doing this, or it's gonna all lead up to this big event or whatever. Like whenever he has free reign to do whatever he wants on his creator-owned stuff, or at least this through the DC Black Label, like he's wow. Like Department of Truth is amazing. That Wind is an amazing fantasy book, and then this is it's a really cool setup for a horror book, in a like apocalypse type of end of the world. He introduces a lot of characters into this world that I think you're gonna at least find one or two people you identify with, and like any good horror apocalyptic movie, like hope that they make it out in the end of the story. So I can't recommend it enough. I remember last week everybody was really talking about the book. I did a review for it on our channel, and it got a lot of responses. So I know people are excited about this book. So I wanted to at least bring it up to see if you and your listeners were aware, because I really recommend it.
So Mike's a big horror fan. Mike's also been a big Tynion fan. I love Department of Truth. I read that first volume and was just blown away.
Mm-hmm.
This book started getting a lot of buzz, and I started hearing a lot of things about it. And while I'm not normally a horror fan in like the traditional sense of a horror book, I heard the premise for this, and I'm pretty sure I bought it digitally because I need to read this. This sounds awesome. So it's on my list. I just haven't gotten to it because the idea of they bring these people to this lake and basically the world's being destroyed around them.
Right.
I'm just like that. Okay, let's go. Because that to me feels more. I feel there's got to be some sort of mythology behind it, like Christian mythology or something behind it. And that's what's going to bring me in. We're just going to be like, oh, if we're talking end times and like apocalypse times, like that's right up my alley. So yeah, I want to check that book out.
Awesome. Great.
So yeah, that is everything, everybody. Thanks to y'all for listening, for so much for listening. And Dan, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me personally at Echo Spider on Twitter, or you can follow the podcast at Next Issue Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I think it's the same thing. But yeah, all the links are there. And then go check out our YouTube channel. I've been doing comic reviews, at least one in each imprint, in like Marvel, DC, and one in indie book a week. And people seem to like that, so I'm going to keep doing it until people start watching.
I was doing reviews for a little while, and I personally don't like doing them. So I was like, I'm going to stop because people do click on them, but I was not enjoying myself doing them. But everybody out there, you can find me at Fortress Chris as always, and fortresscomicnews.com. Everybody, if you're listening to us, to make sure, go to your podcatcher, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, whatever. Give us a review, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you're watching this, to subscribe to the channel, comment down below, all that fun stuff. And you all know the goodies over at patreon.com/FortressComicNews. Thank you all so much for listening this week. We'll see y'all here next week.